right, Andrew. So this was yours. That we were going to talk about these what's happening with the federal government employees. They're being offered to, please go home, resign, because Elon Musk wants to treat the federal government like X, formerly known as Twitter. So what's up with this?
Yeah. No, it's wild, Angela and Tiffany. And Tiffany, you and I can co-do this one because I know DC is resident home for you. So, when you go out, everywhere you go, you're running into federal employees. And I can not, but I could barely imagine what it is like right now working within this federal government. If you're at USAID, and you were called out by the richest man in the world as a criminal organization, the president then doubles down on that. I could imagine you feeling in some ways devastated, but I just want to let you know what I was told a long time ago. Check the source. Elon Musk is the source on this thing. And I think it's important in recognition of Black History Month and in recognition of who it is that we're dealing with, to remind us that Elon Musk grew up in apartheid South Africa. When the United States finally determined its position against apartheid, thanks to the great lobbying work of members of the Congressional Black Caucus, it was USAID that went in, really representing the United States government, and began to create grant programs and set up institutions that could move people from this mid-enslavement system where Black folks were treated as the underclass, and whites in South Africa, the minority, were obviously treated as those who were privileged. So Elon Musk grew up in an environment. Apartheid did not end until, I think, 3 years after he had graduated high school. So his exposure to us is through that lens. And unfortunate for him, in all of his privilege, he's actually never had to really compete against us. And now he's in DC and he's seeing Black folks scaling all kinds of walls against all kinds of obstacles. And you shouldn't be surprised, none of us, that they want to now pull the rug from underneath us. But to get to the details of this package, because we are right now approaching the closing days for federal employees' ability to accept the offer that's been made by Elon Musk, supported by his Vice President Donald Trump. And it essentially said that we encourage you to leave the government. And this email, by the way, was sent to 2 million federal employees. Never done. They can't recall a time where one individual emailed 2 million employees of the federal government, offering them the opportunity to depart from the government. And by the way, if you choose this option, you can go and you can work from home and you can take leave and we'll pay you all the way to September. Now, y'all, there are lots of reasons to raise an eyebrow to this kind of an offer. One, if the man is offering you this, know that on the back end, he's getting triple, double, quadruple, you name it, benefits from it. But more importantly, y'all, we got to see this for what it is. This is their attempt to hollow out the government and the government employees who in DC, they oftentimes kind of conflate with people of color, Black folk very specifically, right, who have gotten out of their place, have somehow been able to navigate this government, work committed years, decades in some cases for folks, to get where you are, only to be told by the least qualified people in the room that you didn't earn it. I want you to hear from one of the lawmakers at our federal level who is speaking as a home state representative. Let's hear from Senator Tim Kaine and hear his advice to federal employees. And then me and my colleagues will pick up on the other side of this and have a conversation on our own.
My advice to you today is simple, even if it's not easy. Don't give up. Don't give up. Keep serving everyday folks. You are here because of your expertise. You are here because of your patriotism. You are here because you know the value in dedicating your life to serving your fellow Americans. America needs you. Donald Trump and cronies are determined to do anything they can to knock you off course. They've even dangled a phony buyout in your face. But make no mistake, that buyout is a trap. Donald Trump has no authority to offer you a resignation buyout. Don't trust a guy with a long history of stiffing contractors by taking him up on a sham deal that he won't follow through on.
Yeah, just so you that was again Senator Tim Kaine from the state of Virginia, United States Senator. And one of the distinctions I want to point out here real quick is that this offer that Elon Musk made to federal government employees is almost a replica of the offer that he sent to Twitter employees when it came under his ownership. I mean, they had to change a few lines, but by and large, it's pretty much the same communication that was sent to clear out that organization. But the reason why the senator is warning you that this may be a sham deal is because the federal government is really just getting into the business of buyouts. The Clinton administration had to go to court to get sign off to offer folks up to $25,000 for a buyout. Obviously, if you work till September, that you would exceed that amount. And it is right now contestable. And there will be lawsuits on this as to whether or not the government could actually legally offer this at all. Angela, Tiff, y'all have worked around, and in your case, Angela, within the government. How are you processing this? And then also, I'd be interested to hear, what advice would you give to our friends, folks we don't know, our people who are holding it down at the federal level around how they ought to see this deal?
I just really quick, and Tiff, I won't talk long. I want you to be able to weigh in. I want to point out some facts here that are really important. So Senator Tim Kaine represents Virginia. As Andrew said, Virginia has the largest share, only second to Maryland, not even second to Maryland, actually the largest share of federal government employees. Overall, there are 4 million, more than 4 million federal government employees throughout the country. In Virginia specifically, there are 144,000. That's not counting the folks who still benefit from federal retirement, federal pension funds, which would all be compromised under this deal. So if they agree to separate from the government, they will disqualify themselves from receiving their federal retirement. Most of the people that I know who are still in the federal government, if they didn't rotate on and off the Hill, they just stayed. And even for the folks who went back to Capitol Hill, they did it because of the federal government retirement plan. And so you forfeit that opportunity by doing this. The other thing that I want to throw into the mix here for your consideration is the folks that weren't offered the ability to retire, but were summarily fired, some of them 5 months away from retirement. And they also are no longer eligible for that retirement because of a partisan firing. And I think all of this is horrible. It's not fair. People aren't necessarily thinking about consulting with their attorneys because they're like, I just want to get far away from what is to come. This doesn't look like the government that I signed up to work for, to defend, to protect, and to even have my name affiliated with this, my legacy affiliated with this. So they're trying to get away from it, not realizing all they're compromising to run away from it.
Yeah, fair.
I think Angela can attest to this. It's interesting in Washington, D.C., it's one of the only cities that takes on the personality of the administration in charge. And so when I first moved here, George W. Bush was coming in office and the city took on that personality. When President Obama was in office, I mean, D.C. to me was one of the most amazing cities. You know, you had all these chefs from different embassies opening restaurants, and it was a thriving metropolis of young, innovative talent. That was one of the things he did, empowered a lot of young people and, different thinkers to be in these leadership positions. And then when Trump got in office, it felt very post-apocalyptic. I don't know if you guys remember when Melania decorated the White House for Christmas and it was these red trees. I mean, it just looked very strange and weird. Mm-hmm. And we had, of course, COVID. And since then, it's been a really interesting dynamic in D.C. It feels like one, I can understand what Angela's saying, like you want to flee. And so what this is, to me, there's the issue of the personality of D.C. that I think having the only thing that keeps the blood flowing in Washington, D.C., it is the home of the federal government. So oftentimes D.C. Is a city that does not feel impacted by or as impacted by unemployment numbers or, the job market because the home of the federal government. The other thing that why we should all be concerned is because essentially Elon Musk is firing people who would be in charge of regulating his multiple tentacles of business that he wants to do within the federal government. And so he will have free reign, essentially, over instituting policy, bypassing any kind of congressional oversight, as we have already seen, walking into buildings, demanding, without any security clearance, demanding to see things that are well above his intellectual level, well above his pay grade. And so that is the main thing I'm concerned about. I really hope people listen to what Angela said, what they would be giving up, what they'd be leaving on the table. I understand it's not the government that they chose to serve. And I think another thing that we have to be concerned about is how the federal government is being weaponized to serve Donald Trump. And so there was, according to the reporting, there were people who were advised. They said, listen, if you see somebody trying to cover up DEI, any initiatives that are focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, disability, any of it, by calling it another name or sneak it into the budget, please report that person. We are expecting you to report that person. And I just wonder, like we talked about, how long before that gets to outside the federal government? How long before it's, report your neighbors who are not MAGA? And I think the complacency that we're seeing in society, I don't know what it's going to take for people to hear the sound of the alarm. Just this morning, there was a recall, or just this week, I should say, there was a recall on broccoli. That was like urgent. It was urgently recalled.
Deadly.
What'd you say, Ange?
I was just saying it was marked as deadly. It's a deadly recall at Walmart, by the way, one of the stores that decided to get rid of DEI. If they would have kept us, the broccoli recall would have been deadly.
But also, this is a function of the FDA. So without government institutions, there are tangible consequences that we will be confronted with. And I don't think people, I think a lot of us who are engaged realize that. I don't think the masses are going to realize that until something devastating happens, which is frightening to me.
Tiff, it's interesting you talked about the sort of culture shift, the mood shift, the vibe shift, if you will, that happens through these transitions. And then you landed here on the oligarchs, right? The Trumps and the Musks attempting to turn employee, coworker against coworker, making you rat out each other. And I presumably to even get into their graces, right? So you be protected while you throw others under the bus. I already know that federal employees are smart enough to resist this most obvious play. Why? Because you all have served diligently, unwaveringly, through Democratic and Republican administrations. Y'all have survived presidents, in fact, many presidents and administrations. This one is different, obviously, because they want to burn the house down. This one is different because the enemy is within, to borrow a phrase from Donald Trump. The enemy is exactly the phrase, the fox guarding the hen house, can't be more apropos than this moment that we see right now with Donald Trump and Elon Musk. They don't have respect for the jobs that we do because they don't respect government. Why? Because government regulates. Government holds them accountable. Government says, hey, if you produce something that hasn't been created and engineered with the safety of the American people in mind, we're pulling that off the shelf. They don't want that. It costs them money. And they are fine with treating our lives as expendable so long as their profit margin continues to grow. And I'll end here and simply say, I know it is not easy. I know it's hard. It's hard waking up each day looking at the news to see what new controversy has arrived. But y'all, you swore an oath to the Constitution, to this country of ours that we're still in the pursuit of making more perfect. You've survived other days, and you know what? We're going to survive this one too. But we need you to hang in there because their greatest hope is that you take this offer, you leave the government, and you get replaced with a loyalist and acolyte of Donald Trump who takes a loyalty oath to watch out for him and have his back. And what we need are people like y'all who have the American people's back. So good luck, and we're here for you, I know.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.